So this video here is going to be sort of a response to one of my students. We were having a good conversation today, and the topic of systems came up. The idea of the writing system, or their basically, more importantly, their writing process came up. And without going too much into it, basically the student was talking about how their writing process works. And this was done as, for lack of a better term, kind of a defense of them against writing. Sort of an excuse as to why they haven't been pushing out really any kind of completed assignments in a while. It is, again, awesome student, absolute rock star of a student. They had their own challenges, which I'm not going to go into them or their name or anything like that. But the part of the conversation we had tonight was about their output, and they talked about their system and how, well, my writing process is this, and this, and I feel like there are certain things that are beyond my grasp, and I like to take the time to stew and think over this stuff, right? Okay. To be frank, and obviously it's a message for everybody, but to be frank, if you are not putting out work at least to a satisfactory degree, now that can be whatever you deem it. If you are not putting out as much work as you think you should be, or you know that you could be, you don't have a system. You don't have a process, quote unquote. If you, as just someone who's listening to this, have gotten maybe a couple short stories, perhaps written maybe a first draft of a novel written at some point, and a lot of unfinished work and a lot of work that you're not proud of. If that's you, you don't have a system. You don't have a process. To be frank, you haven't earned it. You haven't earned a process. Our head likes to really mess with us. As a writer, in our brains, the majority of what we think about is unnecessary bullshit. And as a means of procrastination, the mind will mess with you. What it will do is it will tell you things like, oh, you're a writer. Yeah, you're just figuring this thing out. You got to process. You got to really stew on this thing for a bit. You got to really think this thing over. See if it's worth your time, because the guy in the YouTube video who's been vlogging writing every day has been telling you that, that he takes a year or two to really stew on an idea before he decides to go for it, because he knows his project's going to take years, and you should do the same thing. And all of the information you get from me and other people, basically, you take that in, your mind's going to twist it. It's going to turn it into something as an excuse for an action. All right? It'll take every good idea me or someone else has told you, and it will twist it to its own benefit. That's the power of your procrastinating mind. It's going to mess with you. It's going to have you think a bunch of extra bullshit. It's going to just muddy it up. And what's going to happen is you're not going to have anything on the page. All right? If you don't have anything done, if you have nothing to show for your work, if you're just not working at a pace that you think maybe you should be, if you think you're not at your writing time at a quality you like, if you're not putting out work you want, your writing system, your process is sitting your ass in the chair and writing. All right? That is your process. A process is something that you earn when you can demonstrate that it's a repeatable thing. You writing twice a week on these days and this time because you get the work done at about maybe one draft a year, and it takes you about 3 or 4 years to get a book done, and you're happy with that. Awesome. You've earned that process because you have a system that's repeatable. You've actually finished work. You've got it down on the computer. You've got it ready to submit, and you are proud of the pace that you're doing it at. That's a comfortable pace for you. All right. But the person who has nothing, who just thinks, oh, I like to write, on whenever I kind of feel like it, when the muse hits, or, when I'm really feeling inspired, it just has to come out of me. But boy, I really wish I had more. I really, really wish I could actually show something for it. Right? That's not a process. That's not a process. You're not producing anything. That is just procrastination. So really think about where you're at right now and if you're comfortable with where you're at. If you are, awesome. Keep rocking that thing. But if you're not, really, really take these ideas of processes, of I've got a methodology. I do things my own way on my own time. Take these sort of things that you earn as you get better as an author. These things that you earn when you can actually have something of a prolific nature or something of a pedigree to stand on. Take these ideas and throw them out for now. These are high ideas that you get to talk about later. Imagine going to a tennis club and you've got some Wimbledon champion there hitting the ball, telling you basically, playing, and you go and you maybe talk to him a little bit and he gives you some advice and you go, no, it's okay. I got my own process. I got my own way of playing. Imagine if you're a chess player and you go and you meet a grandmaster and you're sitting down there and your elo is, 1,000. And you start talking to this grandmaster about, that's some good idea, but really I got my repertoire, I got my style, I got my system. This is how I do it when I play, right? You're not at their level. Like, to not take their advice is disingenuous. It's the mentality of an amateur, of someone who's not going to grow and move forward, right? This sort of thinking that you have achieved a point where you're efficient in your work and you can push stuff out, that type of thinking is something that you earn over time once you can demonstrate and repeat these things, okay? And for most of us who are not at the level yet, who are not there, who know there's a gap between where we want to be, all this thinking is just a distraction. It's just procrastination. So instead, forget your process, forget your system, just sit in a chair and start hitting that keyboard. That's going to get you much further than any sort of high-minded process. All right. The enemy of really good is perfection. That's the summary of what I'm saying. All right. You're coming up with these perfect ways of doing things, this perfect methodology, these perfect plan, and recognizing that when you put it into action, that all you're getting is meh, okay, sometimes good ideas, and are just being stopped, being stalled, because you're living in that perfection mind state. Get to the keyboard and just start writing. That's going to solve so many of your problems. And again, I'm going to finish this by just reminding everybody, this is for those who are not at the level they want to be at yet, who are not comfortable with their output yet, who are not satisfied with what they're doing. For those that are like, say, me, for example, that are very, very happy at the pace they're going at, awesome, ignore it. This was not for you. But for the amateur, for the novice, for those that are not where they're supposed to be, this is the message that you need to hear. Button chair, hands on the keyboard will solve so many more problems than all this thinking about how you write and your process and the perfect way of doing it.